All right, guys. Espo and Lindsay are gone. I want people to take us seriously. We've got By the Numbers. We've got Big Bright Shining Star. We've got a Suns win. Am I missing something?
How about the banana soup?
Come on, Steven. Quit horsing around.
Hello and welcome in to the PHNX Suns post-game show. We've got BoJack Horseman on the sexy sax. We've got Chris Paul over here ready to break it all down, and I am Eric Ruby, aka Mr. Banana, and we are here to celebrate a Phoenix Suns 125-119 comeback victory over the Los Angeles Clippers. We've got the sexy sax. We've got wonderful people in the chat. You're all hitting that like button, and we're here to celebrate. We got Kyle behind the mat. Kyle, please bring up that sexy sax. Woo! Your Phoenix Suns are 2-0 against the Los Angeles Clippers after an atrocious first half. They had a nearly perfect third quarter. Devin Booker dropped 40. Ryan Dunn is Rookie of the Year. Gentlemen, we have made it to a wonderful Halloween night. Steven, how you doing?
Doing great. Was excited about this matchup. That first quarter did not help with making the excitement extend from where it started at. But boy, did that second half make that happen.
Can I take this off now?
Yeah, Jared, you can take off the horse mask. Okay, that's actually Gerald Bourguet, in case you missed it.
It's so hot in there. What a fantastic performance. That was great. I know all of the concerns that the Suns have had were on display in full in the first half, from turnovers early to Nurk to defense to keeping opponents off the offensive glass. And then in the second half, we saw what we've seen in fits and spasms throughout the season in terms of this team honing in on attention to detail, on their mistakes, on their shortcomings. And that is a testament to both the construct of this roster and also Mike Budenholzer and the way that they're able to key in on things that have been holding them back. Well,
that's the thing. Mike Budenholzer, we're going to get into all the players. We're going to get into Book. We're going to get into Ryan Dunn. Tyus Jones had a fantastic night as well. Royce O'Neal hit some big shots. But, Steven, what did you see out of Mike Budenholzer that helped the Suns win this game?
Continuing to roll the dice and going with sometimes non-traditional lineups, figuring out the player combinations that the team is demanding or that the game is demanding from his team, and playing to those players being in the lineup at the same time with one another. No further example than the blue collar boys spending more time on the court together, like we talked about in pregame, and helping to spark yet another comeback, playing crucial roles on both ends of the floor within that, and just continuing to do what they do best and adding value on both ends of the floor. And you see the results that came from that. You see the way that they kind of helped to turn the tides of the game. And then you also see Devin Booker continuing to ascend it to his own in terms of scoring within the principles of Mike Budenholzer's system.
I mean, we're having a good time here. And, of course, I remind everybody, before we get Gerald Bourguet to break it down as well, that this show is presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer and find out why, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Not an ordinary game. Gerald, what did you see out of Mike Budenholzer's adjustments?
Oh man, so much. I mean, every little thing, it felt like, I think the first 4 minutes they had 3 turnovers. They had 4 turnovers in the first quarter. The rest of the way, what did they end up with? They ended up with 12 turnovers for the game. So 8 turnovers over the next 3 quarters. That was something they addressed early on. The offensive rebounding, they were just hemorrhaging second chance points, offensive rebounds. They cracked down on that. I felt like they did a better job of moving the ball and getting up threes in the second half. It felt very stagnant in the first half in terms of their approach. Felt like a lot of mid-range ISOs and that type of thing. and they completely reverted back to the team that we've seen for the majority of this season, where the ball is moving. They're getting Booker and Durant the ball in off-ball situations where they can just go and attack and be in attack mode. And I think that opened things up for everybody else. Ryan Dunn obviously came in, gave them some great minutes. And then I feel like Royce O'Neal, like you mentioned, he was just fantastic. We had been saying, like, he's been great to start the season, and the shots haven't even been falling for him yet. Tonight was an example of what happens when the shots are falling, because he came in there with 21 points on 7 of 8 shooting, made 5 of his 6 threes. So this is incredible what the bench is giving them right now. And it felt like in the second half, once the starters figured it out, they really got the ball rolling. Shooting 16 for 20 in the third quarter doesn't hurt either.
No, I think one of the things that we were lamenting about last season was it didn't feel like the Phoenix Suns had an identity. And I know it's only 5 games into the season, but it feels like their identity, minus their one loss where they were up big against the Lakers, where it kind of got flipped on them, was this team fights back. And while we're going to get into every single player and why they helped do that, I think the thing that Bud does is he pushes the right buttons to get that comeback. Whether it's the right adjustments, Jusuf Nurkic not playing the entire second quarter and then coming out like a man possessed in the third and helping the Suns get to a 15 for 15 start in the third quarter. You don't do that without Jusuf Nurkic. Now, were there problems? Yes, but Bud pushed that button. You look at the end of the game, Royce O'Neal, Ryan Dunn, right? Ryan Dunn's in there. He's playing. He misses a couple threes. You take Ryan Dunn out. You put Grayson Allen in. It opens up the floor. Eventually leads to a Royce O'Neal three to put the game away. Steven, it feels like he's picking and he's choosing his spots, and everybody on the team has a shared identity that when they go in, they know it's for a purpose. And purpose is what this team was lacking last season.
Yeah, I think that purpose, and within the purpose, organization and having a true avenue or route to success, that there's proof that this works when you play to it. And when you get out of alignment with it, whether it be the loss to the Lakers or just general slippage that they've seen over the course of these now first 5 games, they see the repercussions that come from that. However, they also see the positive that comes from it and that compounds when they play to those principles that are being established. The spacing was impeccable across multiple stretches, and it was just really organized. It felt like organized chaos in many different ways. And that's the space that he desires for them to operate in. And when the pieces are clicking the way that they need them to, you see the result.
Yeah, and this felt like a case of it could be anyone's night on this team. Like, obviously, Book was the guy with 40 points tonight. You only got 18 out of Kevin Durant, but they were a super efficient 18. You got 16 out of Ryan Dunn. You get 21 off the bench, off of Royce O'Neal. And this is what happens when you have a system where ball movement and player movement is emphasized, and you're able to get all of these different guys the ball in their spots. Like, yes, Ryan Dunn shooting 4 of 9 from 3 obviously helps. Going blistering hot as a team from the third quarter really helps a lot. But it feels like there's just a different level of resilience, of buy-in compared to last year. Like, last year, this team probably would have lost this game by 25.
Yeah, they would have lost game 1. As well. That's the thing. You probably wouldn't have gone in on the second night of a back-to-back and thoroughly beat the Mavs. I could tell you they're not winning all 4 quarters last season, because the last time they did that before the Mavs was literally the beginning of last season. It had been basically a calendar year. It's not what they're doing often. It feels like they just have a different mentality. There are teams that win games and there are teams that lose games. I know that's very simple way to put it, but when it comes down to crunch time, when it comes down to games like this where you're completely out of control, it takes a special group of players to be able to bounce back on the road in a tough environment to play and put together a third quarter like that to get back on the map. And let's focus on Devin Booker right now. Let's not bury the lead, because somebody now owns the scoring record in 5 different arenas, adding the Intuit Dome. Devin Booker, 40 points tonight, 8 assists, 3 steals, 5 rebounds, 11 of 18 from the field, 5 of 9 from 3. So to nobody's surprise, Devin Booker is our big, bright, shining star of the night. Steven, this was the explosion that we were waiting for out of Devin Booker, and we finally got it. I don't think he's changed much about the game, except for the fact that the orange thing went through the net this time.
Yes, but I also like the featuring of Devin Booker in this game. Like Gerald mentioned, a ton of movement off the ball, him working off all types of screening variations. And for me, what's really kind of etched in my memory to really spearhead the run that they went on in the second half, that early portion of the third quarter, coming out of the break, he gets 3 touches on the right side of the floor, I believe, or the left side of the floor, rather.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is a quick post-up that ends up turning into like an empty corner pick and roll from the logo area. The other one, he gets a touch off a pistol action, sets the screen, and then he gets a flare from the top and then pulls up off of a one-dribble three-pointer after that. And I can't remember what the third basket was, but it's these things happening in rapid succession, one after another, all compiled after stops as well in a row.
Mm-hmm.
That's the type of space that you need him to be operating in. Get it with tempo into the half court, and then let him work in space before the defense gets set.
Yeah, it was on full display when they started off the third quarter. I think he scored their first 7 points there, and he had already had 15 at half. It was kind of sustained throughout the game whenever he was on the court. And, you know, to start the season, we've seen it where he's maybe not been as aggressive tonight. It felt like he was in full attack mode without taking away from, you know, the fact that you have Kevin Durant on the floor or you have all these other shooters on the floor. Like, he was great. And the things that I loved, like, yes, the 8 assists are great. The 40 points are fantastic. Only 2 turnovers for him on the night, and he got to the line 15 times.
Jeez.
Like, and made 13 of them. So those are the little areas where he can really boost his scoring. And the Suns need a guy, especially with Beal out tonight. They need a guy who's going to put pressure on the rim, who's going to put pressure on a defense and be able to get to the free throw line.
Well, everything you guys said was very smart, but maybe it all just comes down to one simple thing. And that's from a super chat from Tribe7Even saying, I don't want to hate on Book's headband, but when he's not wearing it, he's on another level. It's probably just me, though. That was something we noticed, Gerald. The start of the game, it was like, oh, Devin's not wearing a headband tonight.
We did notice that, but I am the crazy person who went back last season and wrote the statistical breakdown of what Devin Booker averages with the headband, without the headband, with different colored headbands. So maybe I'll post that link a little bit later again so you guys can access that. But the takeaway, he's still Devin Booker.
He's the same guy. He's the
dude.
same guy with or without
Same
it.
dude.
But you trust the guy who checked.
It's a fan fixation. It's a superstition thing, but we can roll with it.
Well, I want to say a superstition for me is making sure everybody in here is hitting that like button. We have almost 1,000 people across multiple platforms in here right now. If you're joining us on YouTube, make sure you hit that thumbs up button for Devin Booker, for a Phoenix Suns win, and of course for yourself for joining us on this Halloween night. Now, Devin Booker, leading scorer, 40 points, 18 points from KD, your third leading scorer behind Royce O'Neal. Obviously, you want more out of KD. So putting that aside, I want to kind of put this situation out there for you guys. Is this almost like the perfect layout for Suns success this season? Devin Booker, your leading scorer, he's in attack mode. You're running your offense through him. If you add maybe like 7 or 8 more points from KD, you've got Ryan Dunn and Royce O'Neal causing havoc on the wing. Tyus Jones with only 7 points, but adding 11 assists on top of that. Nurk's first half was not great, but his second half was good. Mason Plumlee had some okay moments too. It felt like they did enough around them to have like what this team was built to do. Steven, is this kind of the ideal version of the Phoenix Suns that we're seeing right now?
I would say yes. And what I mentioned in our preseason preview, Devin Booker has to take more ownership of this team. And I'm not saying that he doesn't, but I'm saying in a literal sense, scoring on par, if not more than Kevin Durant. I think that's a great inner team type of competition, obviously in a healthy manner. If he's scoring at that same level as Kevin Durant is, at that same prolific level, where are the gaps with this team? They really increase the margins and allow themselves a lot more room for error when they're operating like that. And through the results that we saw in the first quarter of this game, giving up, I think it was 37 or 36 points to the Clippers in the first quarter, when they're scoring the way that they need to and they're playing to the principles Mike Budenholzer has established, they give themselves that wiggle room to not just come back, but to also overtake and then really put a stamp on the game. And that's what you need from him in particular.
So I think for the Suns, I think the beauty of having a big three, and in this case tonight, just those two, is it doesn't have to be, you know, Booker going off and KD filling the holes, or KD going off and Booker filling the holes. It can be a variety of different things. And I think that's the beauty of having two superstars that can play to that caliber. I do think there's something to getting Booker started off early in the game because we know that Kevin Durant can turn it on at any point in time. But I wouldn't point to tonight's game as like this is the formula that it needs to be, because there are going to be more favorable matchups for Kevin Durant versus Devin Booker and vice versa, I think. And I do think you want Booker, as much as he can take charge, to take the onus off of Kevin Durant to do so much, because last year he had to do so much, tied for the leading scorer defensively on the other end, guarding all the premier wings in the league. Yep. That's a lot of mileage on a guy who's 38. And like heading into the playoffs, you don't want to rely on that. So I think if you can save him in the regular season, if Book can take a little bit more in the regular season, then come playoff time, Kevin Durant is fresher and can do Kevin Durant things. But I don't think it has to be like Book first, KD second, or KD first, Book second. I think the beauty of this is that you can turn to either one of them based on the matchup and how the flow of the game is going.
And I'll say real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just kind of thinking about, I think it was game 5. 2022, Kevin Durant first gets here to the Suns, or 2023 rather. Looking at that game, both Devin Booker and Kevin Durant going for 35 plus, I believe, in that game. That's the type of blend that you want. Yeah. It doesn't feel like it's your turn, my turn. It's very much he's got it. Now the defense is worried about him, and now I got it. I got that slightest bit more space. And now we're really working as like a 1A and 1B. It's not even Batman and Robin at that point.
Well, to both of your points, one, Gerald, not only was it last season that Kevin Durant had to carry a large load and play a lot of minutes, that's been this season so far as well. This first game against the Clippers, he played over 42 minutes. He had 39 minutes at the end of regulation. The first 2 games of the season. That's too much for somebody who, yes, is as good as Kevin Durant, but you're trying to preserve him and keep him around for longer. And to your point, Steven, about the blend, Wancho in the chat a little bit ago said, KD makes it easy for these guys since he attracts the elite defenders, allowing the rest of the guys to get open threes. When Devin Booker's operating in the space that he was operating in today, just having Kevin Durant on the floor, if we take Bradley Beal out of the equation, just having Kevin Durant on the floor opens up so much, not just for Book to continue to cook and get that points and not have the defense focus on him, but for the likes of Ryan Dunn, Royce O'Neal, in theory, not tonight, Grayson Allen, Tyus Jones, even Nurk to a certain point. It opens up everything for them. And we're going to look at the numbers. We're going to continue to talk about Ryan Dunn. I know we have some comments in here from some UVA folks. We're going to do all of that, 1, after you hit the like button, and 2, right after this break. I want to remind everybody that this episode of PHNX Suns is brought to you by Bet365. And just like every Suns-Clippers game that's ever been played ever, it is never ordinary over at Bet365. We are going to get into our bets. One of us hit, I won't say who because it wasn't me, but one of us hit our bets. And let me tell you, I absolutely love the Bet365 app. Before Bet365 came into my life as somebody who was using other betting apps, I just didn't know what I was missing out on. Now that I have Bet365, the app is so smooth, the live in-game betting, they give you updates, they give you profit boosts. There's so much that you can do with Bet365. In fact, they pioneered live in-game betting. They have live streams of almost 800,000 events each year and 90 million users year-wide. And right now, download the Bet365 app, use code PHNX365 when you sign up and choose your offer and find out why, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Disclaimer, you must be 21 plus and physically located in AZ. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT STEP to 53342 or visit problemgambling.az.gov. And maybe we couldn't go to the game in LA, but if you want to go to the game when the Suns come back for a homestand, I highly recommend our friends over at Game Time. But it's not just for the sporting events. No, it's for everything. Comedy shows, check. Theater, check. And concerts, check. I can tell you from my own personal experience, I was able to give my wife the perfect birthday gift because I was able to afford tickets only because of Game Time. They filter out the fluff. They have Game Time Picks, which gives you the best deals for you and the best seats. You can see your view. You can click an option, so there are absolutely no hidden fees, and they have a 110% price match guarantee if you find a lower price. And as somebody who's tried to find the lower price, I can tell you it is very, very hard because it's always coming from our friends over at Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Some terms do apply, but again, create your account, redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time?
It is game time. Fellas, I'm going to open up the floor to you guys. We talked about Devin Booker. We talked about Kevin Durant and overall our thoughts on this game. If you had to add a third topic, a third player, who are you focusing on the most? I'll go to you, Gerald.
Oh man. Well, see, I know who you're gonna say, and I know who you're gonna say. So let's talk about Nurk real quick.
Okay,
Can we
let's
talk
do
about
it.
that?
Yeah.
Because I know that we're gonna hit the two wings that we want to talk about beyond this, but I do feel like we need to talk about Nurk because Nurk was atrocious in the first half, and we saw the result: down double digits in the third quarter. You're down by as many as 21. And then in that third quarter, it felt like Nurk was a lot better in terms of not being a world beater, just doing the little things that they need him to do, finishing inside, setting good screens, rebounding on both ends. And it's a reminder that we all have our long-term concerns with Nurk. We have our playoff concerns with him about whether he will be able to stay on the floor in that setting and whether the Suns have enough at the center spot. But looking just through the lens of this regular season, like, they don't need him to be fantastic. They don't need him to be making all these crazy backdoor bounce passes, all these plays. I think they need to simplify his role a little bit, dial it back a little bit, and just understand that they have more than enough around him. If he can just be decent, we saw the results in the second half. We saw what this team is capable of becoming. Maybe not 16 for 20 every quarter with him out there, but like, he doesn't have to be fantastic. He just has to be decent. And nobody is really going to give him credit for what he did during that stretch because most of our minds have already been made up about you need to trade Nurk, you need an upgrade at the center. And trust me, I get it. I have my concerns about that. But for the course of this regular season, I don't know if Mason Plumlee and a rookie is enough to get you through. You need Nurk for the time being. And if you do want to trade Nurk as part of the fan base, you need him to play better so he actually has some value as well. So it's kind of a double-edged sword here, but he just has to be decent. That's the baseline.
Shocking surprise. I got Royce O'Neal speaking to again. This is the third post game where I'm making sure that he's being highlighted for his blue collar efforts and how they spearhead and connect so much of what this team needs from every player external of the big three. You need rebounding, he's doing that. You need him to box out, he's doing that. You need him to take on bigger players and matchups initially or in cross matching and switching. He can do all of that. You need him to be a defensive anchor while your centers are not on the floor. He's doing that. You need him to knock down clutch wide open threes at times. He can do that. If they're closing out long on him, he can continue and keep that advantage, get a paint touch, kick it to the third side, sometimes the fourth side, and get the defense to really just be in conflict. He's just making the plays in a time-on-task fashion that this team needs as a connector and as just a general role player. And the value that brings to everything that they're looking to establish in terms of their identity and in terms of establishing their depth as a weapon and not just a stopgap, it speaks for itself with this record and his hand that he's playing in all of it.
I want to touch on both of your players before we get to mine, because like you said, everybody knows who mine's going to be. It's Ryan Dunn.
Done deal.
Gerald, when we talk about Jusuf Nurkic, I think you summed it up really well where, hey, you don't make that run in the third quarter if it wasn't for Nurk. You're also not down 70-52 at half if it wasn't for Nurk. And Steven, that's the internal battle. What did you see that was replicable out of the first half and the second half that the Suns either need to address or continue to focus on moving forward?
The ball movement, the player movement, both in succession with one another. The Clippers were scrambling the entire second half.
Yeah.
Every time you look up, the ball is crossing half court with 20 seconds left. And they're creating an advantage within 5 seconds of that. And the Clippers are just rotating to the extent that we saw Tyronn Lue feel the need to go to cross-matching Zubac on the guards. He was guarding Royce O'Neal a little bit, Grayson Allen, and even Devin Booker at multiple stretches in that second half. To no avail. They just kept cycling through ways to create advantages, and they generated I think it was a season high in corner 3-point attempts and definitely in corner 3-point makes today. And I feel like the corner 3-pointer, obviously the value that it holds across the NBA, is one of the highest percentage shots because of how close it is in respect to the rest of the 3-point attempts. But the other big thing, you typically create corner 3-point opportunities when you got the defense scrambling. That's typically a barometer that aligns with the movement. And that's exactly where they were in this game. And the results on the box score, as well as just literally watching the game, match that directly.
Gerald, now let's talk about Royce O'Neal, Steven's player that he brought up.
Yeah.
He's been wonderful. And I think one of the things that you focused on in this offseason that's coming true is the fact that Royce O'Neal last season got thrown into the mix at a really hard time. At the trade deadline for a team that we've spoken on multiple times doesn't have an identity and a lot of injuries too, which fluctuates your role. Tonight, 5 of 6 from 3, 7 of 8 from the field. His shot wasn't falling before. It finally came to him. 7 rebounds, a block, a steal, an assist to go along with 21 points. Is it as simple as it just took time for Royce to find like his best fit, or is he doing something differently this season that he wasn't before?
I think it's just enhancing what we saw for the majority of when he came to the team, because he was very good after the Suns traded for him, but you could tell because of the whole team situation, it felt like the whole season was in flux throughout that stretch. It felt like we weren't able to kind of really give him his credit there. And also, like, we didn't see the Suns close too many games with him, which is what we saw that tonight. Like, Royce was the guy on the floor, and it was Ryan Dunn and Tyus Jones that were swapping in and out for each other down the stretch there. Like, Mike Budenholzer, it seems like he has a lot of trust in what Royce does, a lot of appreciation for what he does. He's just a connective piece on both ends. We've talked about the defensive communication, the willingness and the ability to guard up a position, bigger players, the work that he's done on the boards. He's averaging a career high in rebounds so far this season. Tonight, his 21 points, kind of hard to believe were a career high, but that speaks to the fact that he's been able to carve out this type of career for himself with his career high being 20 points before tonight. Kind of insane. And this was a good example of, man, when his shot is falling, it makes him downright unfair.
So here's the thing. I think Royce is the same player that he's always been, but there is something different from all the seasons before, and he talked to us about it at Media Day, Gerald. Can you read my mind?
I cannot know.
He cut out candy from his diet.
Ah, yes, the candy.
Well, not just candy, but he focused on being healthier, being more fit, and he did look a little bit slimmer. And not from this game specifically, but that highlight play that had Kevin Durant raving the other day where he hits the layup on one end, runs all the way down the floor and gets a block on the other end. That's not something that Royce O'Neal was doing last season or seasons before, not because he didn't have the hustle, not because he didn't have the drive to do it, Steven, but I think just upgrading his athleticism like 1%, 2%, 3% has helped him so much. And in moments like this where you're mentioning rebounding, he's averaging a career high tonight, a career high in points in 21. I just feel like he's in better shape to take advantage of the mind and the hustle that he has been bringing for his career so far.
I don't like your anti-candy agenda on Halloween, Steve.
Hey, I first of all, I love candy. I love candy, but I would also love if the players on my favorite team did not eat candy. See, those two things can be true at the same time.
Like vegetables.
Yeah, like, vegetables, fruits,
bananas,
things of that. Bananas.
I see the agenda now.
Yeah. Big banana over here trying to push you down. Okay, but seriously, Steven, when it comes to Royce, have you noticed maybe just like an uptick in his athleticism, his ability to execute on things that way?
I don't know if I would say an uptick per se, but it feels like he's been more active. I will say that.
Yeah.
And it's been in a more sustained manner. I won't say he's been doing more switching, but it feels like there's been more impact since he's entered the Suns context to where they're literally at their best when he's on the floor defensively. Like, this is coming from a role player that's an undersized four.
And he's guarding up.
He's guarding someone bigger than him 98% of the time. And that 3% that he's not is because he switched onto a guard after the person that he was guarding set a screen. Like, these things that he's doing on the margins for this team it's different. It's different. And you don't get to winning championships without having role players step up in the manners in which Royce O'Neal has in this early portion of the season. Now, will those things replicate come playoff time? That's a whole other topic. But to see and know that he has that potential in your context to have that happen at any given moment. He had 12 points the game before this one, and then 21 tonight, like you said, which is his career high. Those are the exact type of things you need from a role player, if not two role players, to be hoisting that Larry O'Brien trophy come June.
So you mentioned another role player.
Yep.
I think it's time we talk about my guy.
I lobbed it off the backboard.
And I'm going between the legs, okay? I'm going between the legs because Ryan Dunn is a freaking superstar, man. Listen, 5 games in, I think the shooting is sustainable. There's absolutely nothing that you've seen from Ryan Dunn that thinks he cannot sustain at least some level of shooting. Now, tonight, he tied the team for most attempts from 3. 9 attempts from 3. He hit 4 of them. 6 of 12 from the field in 34 minutes, 16 points, 4 rebounds, adding a steal, incredible defense. He did have 5 personal fouls. That's okay. You're perfect. we forgive you. I know that I'm extremely high on Ryan Dunn. I love the starting lineup fit with him. I'm not saying bench Bradley Beal, but I love the minutes that he plays there. He obviously brings an infectious energy, and I think the fact, Gerald, that you didn't expect him to contribute from 3, and he's doing it at such a high rate, the best in the rookie class and one of the best on this team, also energizes this team in a way that, yes, his defense can't, because when you're hitting threes on the other end, we've seen the bench get immensely hyped.
Yeah, no, it's because everybody in the building knows this is his make or break skill that is either going to make him a star in the future or it's going to limit him and keep him off the court. And so far, like, again, 5 games is a small sample size, but we also saw it in preseason. We've seen the form. We've seen the mechanics. We've heard his teammates and coaches rant and rave about his three-point shooting ability. Like, it seems legitimate. And it's not going to be, I don't think it's going to be above 40% all season long. I don't think that's going to hold. He's going to hit a rookie wall at some point. There's going to be, you know, cold shooting streaks throughout the season. But again, we've said this so many times, it just has to be like mid-30s. And what he does defensively is going to do more than enough to make up for that. So I loved what I saw from him tonight. I love that he hit that little floater in the short roll there as well. It's not just, you know, spot up, stand outside on the three-point line. The fact that he's able to do more, that he's a monster in transition that no one is really going to challenge when he gets out on the break, I think these are all positive things for him that he's going to be able to build on.
And Steven, if he adds something besides a 3-ball, MVP, Hall of Fame, you know, is this what we're talking about here? Yeah, come on, Chris Paul.
I'm leaving all of that alone. I'm gonna stick to the template to success for this dude in his rookie campaign, and that's continuing to be consistent from deep. A lot of times he's been spaced a pass away, oftentimes in the corner, where teams typically don't commit fully to the ball and not erring on conceding one of the highest percentage shots in the league. But for whatever reason, when he's there, teams continue to bet on committing to the ball, especially if it's one of the big 3 that's driving that lane between the corner and the basket and trying to get the ball out of their hands. And he's just sitting there in the corner, locked and loaded, anticipating the catch, getting it up with a swiftness to the release point, and he's knocking it down with great confidence. By that same token, in that same context, when he's spaced off of the nail, opposite of either of the big 3, and they drive middle or they reject and they threaten the nail help, they're just conceding that space off him consistently, and he's either with movement or in a standstill fashion, locked and loaded, getting it up, and then it's going right through the basket with a ton of confidence. Right. This is very repeatable, and I'm saying it's repeatable even through his ups and downs with this consistency, because they're going to be wide open opportunities. Like, teams have to not guard somebody to get the ball out of one of the big 3's hands, whether they're in pick and roll, whether they're in isolation, whether they're in post-ups, whatever. They're going to consistently see 2 in some capacity. He's going to often be, when he's on the floor, that person is being helped off of, and he's making teams pay on consistency.
Okay, before you call me stupid, okay, before you tell me no chance he makes the Hall of Fame, right? Oh, God. Can you indulge me for a second?
Sure.
Now, I won't get too crazy. I won't say Hall of Fame. I'm not going to say Ring of Honor. I'm not going to say retire his jersey. Let's focus on realistic building blocks for Ryan Dunn. You would hope that by the end of this season, if I talked to you a month ago, that Ryan Dunn would be shooting low 30% from threes and at least having some sort of realistic offensive touch. Right? So he's already way ahead of that.
Yes.
And part of that is simply because of the amount of work that he's put in. And we have people in the chat saying that they respect him because of the amount of work he put in. Now, if you can take somebody, again, bear with me here,
I'm still with you,
who in college only scored over 15 points in a game twice, and he scored 16 in his 5th NBA game against a good defensive coach team. Now, if you look at other flaws in his game, can you realistically, Gerald, and I know I'm being crazy, but realistically, can you look at him and say, this is somebody who will continue to work until those holes and those gaps are addressed?
I think so. I mean, I think there's a difference between like high-end role player, which he already has been so far, and, you know, legitimate superstar who's like a focal point in your offense. I think there's a lot of skills that are going to need to develop if we're looking at that idealistic outcome. But on this particular team, for the next couple of years at least, you don't need him to be that. blown away with what he is doing already on both ends of the floor. We knew the defense would be good. We didn't know it would be guard James Harden, LeBron James, and Luka Doncic in your first 5 games and do a fantastic job on all 3 of them. Like, yes, he is getting baited into fouls. That is a very normal rookie thing. He had 5 tonight. He had 4 or 5 against Luka the other night. Like, he's going to get in foul trouble.
Foul baiters anyway.
Right.
There are NBA players who are going to have 5 fouls.
And that's how you learn. Like, these are all learning experiences for Ryan Dunn because, like Devin Booker said in the clip that we played pregame, like, he already is learning guys' tendencies and knows guys' tendencies. And it took Book 2 or 3 years to learn those types of things. It takes most players a couple years to pick up on those things. And he's already doing that. So I'm thrilled with what Ryan Dunn has been doing. After this show, if you do want to learn more about Ryan Dunn and how he's impressing, I did put together a breakdown over at gophnx.com. It is for diehards only, but it's 11 minutes of listening to what the Suns have to say about what makes him special and, you know, some awesome highlights because this dude has been phenomenal on both ends so far.
So let's continue that shameless plug. If you want to become a diehard, you can do so for the cheapest price that we've ever had it ever.
Yep.
And that is $48 for a year-long subscription to become a diehard. You not only get wonderful content from Gerald. Also, Gerald and Steven talked to Tim Legler earlier this week. You got that before anybody else was able to see it. If you are a diehard only, Espo talked to Mark Stein. I think you were in that conversation too, weren't you, Gerald?
Yes.
Gerald's just all over the place. Diehards also got that first. Exclusive written content. You get access to our Diehard Discord. It's always popping off during game days, during just regular days. We're talking ball, plus Cardinals, plus Diamondbacks, ASU, U of A Rising. We have everything. Go to gophnx.com, hit that little Diehard tab, and become a Diehard member today. Also, another plug for my man Steven over here. Steven did a short, like 2-3 minute film breakdown about a play that the Suns run that gets somebody open every single time. It's popping off on YouTube, and you continue to help that right here on PHNX Sports. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button. We have almost 1,000 of you in here on just YouTube alone. Just YouTube alone. Hit that like button, and when we get back on the other side of this break, I'm going to bring you by the numbers. I promised it earlier, and I'm going to deliver. But first, a quick break. I love telling you about my friends over at Desert Financial Credit Union because I'm serious. They've been in my family for generations. They've been in the Valley for almost 85 years. Well, guess what? My grandparents were members of then Desert Schools because it was only for educators. When they moved out here, it then became Desert Financial. It's been my grandparents, my parents, and now Desert Financial is in my blood. It's the only place I've ever kept my money because they've always been there for me with creative financial solutions, whether it's your basics, your checkings accounts, your savings accounts, or, you know, the more important stuff in life, mortgages, loans, credit cards, investment options, and more. With one of their many locations across the Valley with fantastic customer service, Desert Financial Credit Union is here to help you out. They also have the Eric Ruby special. If you go up and mention it, it's losing your debit card at a bar and they replace it with a smile on their face and they don't ask any questions. Plus, they'll give you $200. I buried the lead. They're going to give you $200 in bonuses for free. All you have to do, open up a free checking account online, get $200 in bonuses, and get started by visiting desertfinancial.com/200. And while Desert Financial's been in my blood, I'm born and raised in State 48, baby. So you know Circle K is in my blood as well. It's America's thirst stop, and right now and always, they have the Inner Circle, a free membership program that if you're not already a member of, you've cost yourself quite a big amount of money over the last couple of months, years, however long you've been going to Circle K. So right now, if you join the Inner Circle, you can save 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. And then after that, save 3 cents off per gallon every day. Eventually, you get bumped up to what Espo says is the Espo level, which is 5 cents off per gallon. But weirdly enough, I'm also on that. So it must not just be for Espo. Plus, you can get a member-exclusive beverage deal. Inner Circle members like you can get any size Polar Pop or Froster for just 79 cents. Join Inner Circle for free. Download that Inner Circle app today. Terms and conditions do apply, and at participating location, visit circlek.com for all the details you could possibly need about the Inner Circle. All right. We've talked individual players. We've praised Devin Booker, Ryan Dunn, Kevin Durant, Royce O'Neal. But the only number that really matters is that final score, 125 to 119. And so now it's time to go to What's in the Box, presented by Desert Financial Credit Union, Arizona's #1 credit union, named by Forbes. How do we get to 125, 119, Gerald?
Yeah, so shooting the ball better than the Clippers obviously helps, and that big third quarter, 16 for 20, made a huge difference there. I think at one point when the Suns went on like a 47 to 25 run to take the lead back, they shot 19 for 25 over that stretch into early in the fourth quarter. They got up 39 threes and made 18 of them, shot 46% from deep, held the Clippers to 34% shooting from three. They really cracked down on the turnovers, like we mentioned, committed 4 in the first quarter, only 8 the rest of the way for a total of 12. We love it when they keep it under 13 turnovers for the game, and they actually won the turnover battle because the Clippers had 14. They were even in steals plus blocks, 16 apiece. They did get outscored 60 to 44 in points in the paint, but as we've mentioned, that number is going to heavily skew towards their opponent for most of the season. That's okay as long as they're winning the three-point battle and playing well defensively outside of that. And as long as the points in the paint aren't too egregious, that's good. In the first half, they gave up 36. Second half only gave up 24, so they improved in that area too.
Steven, was there a specific number tonight, either in the by the numbers or not, that stood out to you?
It's the three-point attempts, but it's the process that precedes whatever three-point attempt that comes. So for me, looking at everything that was said in the media day sessions from players and obviously Mike Budenholzer, and looking at what's applied in the now, it's the small screening for me. I'm thinking I got 3 instances just kind of burned in my memory right now. First or second quarter, rather, Ryan Dunn gets his first corner 3 that he makes, but it's the process that stems through it. Kevin Durant has the ball. It's about 8 seconds on the shot clock on the right side of the floor. The ball is skipped sides about 2 times now. There's nothing happening. Royce O'Neal just a flyby or ghost screen for Kevin Durant. He pops. That gets a reaction on the ball. Royce makes a +1 to Grayson. Grayson makes a +1 to Ryan Dunn. Defense is scrambling. Wide open corner three-point opportunity late in the shot clock. As good a shot quality as you can get. He knocks that down. Another instance, I talked about Grayson Allen having Zubac on him in the third quarter. He sets a ghost screen on ball for Devin Booker. Pops to the open space. That creates a reaction on the ball. He ends up getting a wide open three-point opportunity. He knocks that down. And then to ice the game, you talk about Royce O'Neal's three-point attempt in the corner. But how did he get to that? Devin Booker, the game's leading scorer, on fire, is screening. And it's the angle at which he sets that screen on ball that forces the defense to have to switch. They can't put any other coverage on the ball than that. He slips downhill, gets a paint touch on the catch on the short roll. James Harden, who's guarding Royce O'Neal in the corner, steps over to try to guard Devin Booker to plug the roll. Devin Booker just pops it. Royce O'Neal's wide open. Terrence Mann can't get there quick enough. All three-point opportunities, the shot that they want, but the nuance and process to get into it is sharp, and the cadence at which they're playing in that is spot on. We talked about them reaching the Celtics level. They have to hit this on consistency for them to get there. And these are somewhat of what we're seeing right now.
I think you just elevated into a basketball analysis god. Like that was like watching Devin Booker scored 40 in the Intuit Dome. Like you were just in a groove. They're hand in your face. Nobody was stopping you from making any of those points. That was really good.
When you got a job, you got to do it or do it well.
That's why we like you. Gerald, we have a lot of people in the chat coining the term Budenomics. And I think, you have to get the players to actually execute on these things. But all the things that Steven mentioned was specific ways that the Phoenix Suns set up themselves to have success from 3. Because it's one thing to walk into a team meeting and say, you guys need to shoot 35, 40 3-pointers per game. And it's another thing to sit down and say, here is how you're going to shoot 35, 40 3-pointers a game. Budenomics is working.
It is. And it's something that we've heard going back to the summer when we talked to Josh Bartelstein, at Media Day when we talked to Matt Ishbia and James Jones and everybody when they were ranting and raving about how good Bud has been before they had even had a practice yet. The attention to detail. It's in every step. And you can see it on the court because, like I mentioned, it's not just addressing the problem areas that we saw in the first half, specific things like the offensive rebounding or the turnovers or whatever it might be. It's also finding different ways to get their guys in advantageous positions and utilizing their different skills. It feels like there is a more calculated approach in how they're doing that. There's a more cohesive understanding of, okay, I know what this guy does well, what this guy does well, and how I can maximize those skills to just run offense that's really hard to stop. And that's what we saw, from the second quarter onward, basically. Like, they had the 20-point first quarter, and from then on it was 32, 39, 34. And like you said, Steven, the Clippers defense, which is a good defense, by the way, was completely scrambling the rest of the way. There was a lot of short roll activity there. Like you mentioned, Book caught that one and found, I think it was Ryan Dunn or Royce, the pivotal
Royce,
game,
yeah.
the 3 down the stretch, kind of the dagger. That was Royce in the corner, short roll, using the small screen. Like, these are all things that as they continue to build reps in, we didn't see them enough last year. We're seeing them so early on that it's building my confidence that Bud has a very tactful approach to everything that he's doing.
And speaking to that tactful approach, the second half, 140.4 offensive rating.
Yeah, that's nuts.
That helps you go 15 for 15, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Helps a little bit.
But in tandem with that, though, a 96.1 defensive rating. You can't get back just by scoring when you're at the deficit that they were at. It's the defense and your defense playing to your offense. A ton of pace enabled from that, and that's the template for this team. They're not going to be world beaters on defense. They just have to find the pockets to be impactful like they did tonight. And this second half template that's a whole lot of what it is going to be. It's not going to be the exact same, but these are the type of pockets that they can hit on a consistent basis.
Well, there's Budenomics. Let's see how they did on the Budenomics test. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at our report card here for the Phoenix Suns. Now, these are our benchmarks that, Gerald, you put together at the start of the season as far as things that the Suns need to hit in order to be set up well for a win. Now, they only get 2 this time, but it's 2 important ones. Break down the report card for us.
Yeah, so they didn't get to 30 assists, but they did get to 29. And part of the reason they didn't get to 30 is because they had a really slow start. I think in the first quarter, they were 2 assists to 4 turnovers. So they didn't do themselves any favor, but the rest of the way, 28 assists over 3 quarters, or 27 assists over 3 quarters. That's pretty good stuff. They did attempt at least 35 3-pointers, and this was a big number for the Suns last season. I think this season it might need to be even higher, but the fact that they attempted 39 and made 18 of them is huge. They didn't hold their opponent to 114 points or less, but again, when your offense is firing on all cylinders in the second half, that's one way to help overcome that. And they did lock in defensively in the second half. The Clippers only scored 49 points in the last 2 quarters. They kept their turnovers under 13, which is huge because when this team is not giving their opponents easy runouts and fast breaks, their defense is a lot better for it. And then the big 3 did not combine for 75. Obviously, when Bradley Beal is not in the game, that's probably not going to happen. Booker and Durant were on pace with 58 combined. If Bradley Beal had played, he would have only needed, 17? So.
Yeah, and you would assume after that first game that he had against the Clippers that he would probably get to around there. Steven, this recipe for success, we might have to bump up the 3-point attempts because 35 kind of seems like a low bar for them now.
It seems like a low bar, but I think in hindsight, it's an accurate kind of window for them to be working towards. It's more so, for my money, it's the makes that come with that volume. If they're only shooting 35, but they're knocking down 16 like they did today in rapid succession within their defense or within their offensive process, that's where you want to be. And this is like I said, it's not going to be copy and paste, but the template is there for them to see successes, whether they get to 16 or they knock down 8 or 9.
Well, I have quite the tease for you gentlemen to get into our next segment. Okay. We are going to take our final ad break, but Kevin Durant called me specifically out in a tweet.
Oh, did he?
He called me out, and I'm going to share that to you right after our final break. Now, somebody earlier in the comment section said, man, Ruby's really rocking the shades for the entire post game. First of all, if you tap in with ASU, which I'm on every single day as well, I'm always rocking the shades over there. But part of that is because they are my Shady Rays. And let me tell you, I love Shady Rays. Used to be a just buy the cheapest sunglasses you could find kind of guy. And then I met Shady Rays. And me, along with 300,000 of the best, most informed consumers out there, rated Shady Rays, an independent sunglasses company, 5 stars. That's a lot of people. And it's not just this style. This is what works for me in my banana costume. But if you and your banana costume want something different, whether it's maybe for skiing and snowboarding, you want protective shades, maybe you just need a more casual pair and you like a bigger frame, they have different options for different sized heads. Shady Rays really has everything. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Head to ShadyRays.com, use code PHNX for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. And I don't have a wonderful transition, so I'm just going to go right into telling you about Empire Today. Because let me tell you, if you're looking for new flooring, look no further. Empire Today is here to help you out with the best prices that you can get. And they're not going to just guarantee you the lowest price. They're going to give you the best price, but not the lowest, because if they give you the lowest, they're guaranteeing that they're going to put the worst flooring possible into your home. And you just don't want that. You want it done right, and you want to pick the right type of flooring, because the last thing that you want to do with that type of investment is to pick the wrong one. And that's why they have a virtual floor visualizer. You hold your phone up, you see how the flooring looks in your home, in your apartment, in your business, whatever it might be. Empire Today is there to help you out. Plus, they can give you a free in-home estimate same day. All you have to do is schedule that free home estimate online at empiretoday.com/PHNX, and all listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use promo code PHNX. Some restrictions do apply, so once again, see empiretoday.com/PHNX for all those details. Okay, so Kevin Durant called me, Steven, can you believe this? He called me out.
Damn.
This is what he had to say on Twitter after the Suns win. He says, "Great dub, Suns. And for my parlayers, better luck next time." Ooh.
LOL.
Don't skip the LOL now.
LOL.
Lols.
Well, I'm not laughing. Steven, I'm not laughing, okay? This hurt me. If the Suns didn't win tonight, this would have hurt me a lot more. And if you're wondering, well, Eric, why? Why are you so hurt? Well, that is because, of course, because of our friends over at Bet365, we have a betting competition between myself, Espo, Lindsay, and Steven. And I had a 4-leg parlay of what I thought was relatively easy things. Booker to score 20 plus, Harden to score 15 plus, Zubac to score 15 plus, and KD to score 20 plus. KD scored 18 points, which means that I lost my bet. Let's go ahead and take a look at the standings so far. Lindsay lost her bet. She sits at 33.50. Steven, you lost your bet thanks to James Harden going over 33.5 points and assists. You're at negative 31.67. I lost my bet, minus 29.50. And unfortunately, Espo bet Devin Booker to score 40 plus points at a plus 1,200. And Espo is currently in the lead, and the only thing that makes this okay, Steven, is that he's not here to brag about it.
He hit it right on the head, 40 exactly.
Like I was screaming at my TV.
I love that I'm not involved in the betting in any way, so I can just watch these people react. And Eric was having a full-on meltdown every time they fouled Devin Booker with the ball.
I almost had to text the number, man.
He had four free throws down the stretch, right?
He had 4 free throws, and I couldn't get the ball to Kevin Durant. I'm like, okay, listen, all I need is for Book to not shoot these free throws, and then I need KD to just get 2 attempts at the line. 2 attempts at the line, screw the wall. KD's knocking them down. I'm walking away with it was like a plus 135, right? Like I'm not talking big money, but Espo says Esponomics, baby. Yeah, he's
go to bed.
He's just getting lucky. He's just getting lucky. Okay, let's put the betting aside because I don't want to talk about it anymore because I lost.
Sure.
I want to talk about Tyus Jones because I think lost without all of this, there's a couple things we need to hit before Super Chats, and that is Tyus Jones and then the absence of Bradley Beal. Steven, if I ask you that if this was Tyus Jones' best game of the season, you would say?
It feels a whole lot like it. I would have to rewatch to double check some things because I do feel like he had a couple of other instances where his feel on the offensive end really helped to uplift them and get them out of some of the lows that they saw over the course of games. But in just speaking on it off of fresh memory, it feels like it. The 11 assists definitely helps. And it's not just the arbitrary number. It's the way that he was spraying it around the floor. Sometimes I'm initiating offense. Sometimes I'm playing off of an advantage created from someone else. Sometimes just keeping an advantage with a drive off of a closeout and then kicking it to the second side and allowing for someone else to shoot off of that. Also, the other big thing, something that he noted right away on media day availability, the hit-aheads in transition. Playing off of the defense, one hit-ahead pass, and then you see the way that it, like separation in football when you see someone fast running away from the rest of traffic. Just that pass, the hit-ahead pass gets to the receiver, and then you see this gaping hole that's separated, and someone gets an easy, high-quality opportunity at the basket.
That Ryan Dunn play where he contests James Harden's 3.
Exactly.
Might have been a foul. Might not have been. The refs know that it's Ryan Dunn, so they didn't call it. He gets the superstar call.
And they called a whole lot of other ones, so it must not have been a foul.
He runs down the court. Tyus hits him. He's running fast, and he dunks it. Gerald, was this Tyus' best game of the season?
I don't know. I mean, he committed a turnover, so I'm inclined to say no. Because that's just, you can't do that, Tyus. But no.
Are we ruining his assist to turnover ratio?
I think he's okay still.
I don't know who we
I think he's still okay.
I got nothing.
I think he's still okay with his 40 assists to 4 turnovers on season. But no, I think to your point about the hit aheads, I think there was one play where he passed it ahead so quickly the camera was behind and had to catch up to where he had thrown the ball. And I think there's just little examples. You're not really noticing it because Book's going for 40, because Ryan Dunn's knocking down threes, because Royce O'Neal's coming in and giving you great minutes. But I think Tyus's poise and, like you said, just being able to facilitate when he has the ball in his hands, being able to do it in pockets where he, catches it off the ball and swings it, makes something happen. Those are valuable connective traits that the Suns need out of their point guard. They don't need somebody that's going to pound the air out of the ball like an old school, Chris Paul or Isaiah Thomas or someone back in the day.
Ouch.
No offense, Stephen. But they need someone who's able to do both, who can play on the ball or off the ball. He didn't shoot the ball well from 3 tonight, but 11 assists to 1 turnover, that's fantastic. It felt like he had a very understated impact on the game.
The 11 assists is all that you really need specifically out of him. He hit a floater. He hit some timely buckets as well. Only 7 points though, but a plus 12 on the night. And for him to be able to make the situation better for guys like a Devin Booker, right? Because Devin wasn't just initiating everything. Tyus was still running the show too. And with a team that has so much ball movement, for one guy to end up with 11 assists is a testament to how he's moving the ball around. But one person not on the receiving end of those passes tonight was Bradley Beal. Now, I think there's a couple different ways that this conversation can go. And you guys can tell me. You can backseat drive here. Tell me which way you want to go. Do you want to talk about how they looked without Bradley Beal, or how Bradley Beal might be able to fit in with the emergence of somebody like Orion Dunn, who's playing well with the starters?
Let's talk about how he fits in.
Let's do it.
Because this team is not going to be the team that they desire to be come April, May, and June if Bradley Beal is not being optimized.
Right.
And I'll kind of kick it to Gerald to speak to that, because we both had the pleasure of talking with Tim Legler about that in particular.
Yeah, no, it's very important, because this team doesn't reach their ceiling with Beal having to fluctuate and roll like last year without him really finding his place on the offensive side of the ball like last year. And I think one thing that they need to tap into more, and we've spoken about this a lot, is his off-ball movement, his driving, his rim pressure. Those are things that the Suns on a nightly basis have not really had over the last year or so. And he's somebody that's really good at those things. So I do think they need to find ways, like Tim Legler said, there have been pockets in games where Beal has been on the court without KD and Book, and he's been super aggressive, but they need to find ways to keep him aggressive when those two are on the court. And it can't just be second side actions, but I think that is one area where he's going to need to thrive, is being a catch and shoot guy in the corners, being a catch and shoot guy one pass away, attacking closeouts when he gets the ball in those situations, and just utilizing his constant movement, because he was all over the place in Washington. It was fun to watch him just run around and watch defenders try to keep up with him. This system's a little bit different, so it looks a little bit different with this particular layout of this roster. But I do think there are skills of Beal's that they can tap into a little bit more. And we have to give him credit on the defensive side of the ball too, because defensively, he's not only fitting in, he's been better than he ever was last season, even during the stretch where he was really good down the late stretch of the season.
And to that point, for one, speaking to Bud's system really helping to optimize Beal. When he was on the second side a lot last season, he was either sitting there chilling, watching primary action develop, or he was cutting. And I think his cutting was something that stole the plot a handful of times last season, especially in the second half. But in Budenholzer's system, they have primary side actions that take place, like Tim Legler was mentioning, to get to the second side with intentionality. So we run an empty corner pick and roll, knowing that we're going to skip it to the second side as soon as we come off the screen, to then flow into a dribble handoff for the two players that are spaced on the opposite side. That's how you get the defense to start rotating. And when you get him in rotation, now you're putting Bradley Beal in a perfect position because he is the bona fide and by far this team's best driver.
Mm-hmm.
The king for the Suns offense is paint touches. They have multiple ways they can get to it. When Bradley Beal has it, his downhill nature is just a never-ending threat to the defense, to where you can see teams anticipating his drives, to where when he crosses back after a drive, he gets a lot of wide open middies, or he can get a kick out that for some people, it would take a deep paint touch to generate the type of look that comes from it. For him, it just hits different.
All right, let's address somewhat of the uncomfortable conversation here. Links in the chat says, forget about his contract. I'd rather have Dunn's defense than Beal. We don't need more offense with the starting five. I'm the biggest Ryan Dunn fan in the world. I think that has been absolutely established. I think he should get all the minutes that he could possibly get.
Sure.
Bradley Beal should start for this team no matter what.
Right.
Bradley Beal, on a night in and night out basis, is the third best player on this team.
Mm-hmm.
There's no debating that. And I know there are a lot of people who look at the contract, who maybe look at the up and downs or look at last season or even look at the health, with I think rightfully so, you could be worried about that, and say there's just no way he needs to come off the bench, he's soft, whatever. It's just not true. He's actually not soft at all because he's throwing his body on the line out there all the time. Sometimes maybe to his own detriment because he is getting injured and banged up a little bit. But this team, like you mentioned, Steven, needs that third guy who can put the ball on the floor, who can create and open up so many opportunities. And we haven't even seen him get a legit stretch of time in this system yet. And if that first Clippers game was any representation to how Bradley Beal can play, I mean, that's a winning combination. And before we continue to dive into it and get to everybody's super chats, I want to remind you, if you're not joining us live on YouTube right now, go to gophnx.com to continue having fun with us tonight. So let's keep having this Beal conversation. Gerald, I know that you have been adamant that Bradley Beal does not come off the bench. But what I think the people who are arguing for that do not recognize is just because one player starts, aka Bradley Beal, does not mean that they can be put out there in some primarily bench ran lineups. Like, you can still get what you want without Bradley Beal not starting.
Right. And they've done that. They've put him with bench-heavy lineups. They put him on the court without Kevin Durant and Devin Booker to maximize the fact that you have a third guy on your team who just a couple of seasons ago was a 30 points per game scorer. Yep. And I get the concerns about the injury thing. That comes with the package, unfortunately. It's part of it. But there's not really a lot you can do about that right now because A, you traded for the guy, B, he's got a no-trade clause, and C, he's still really, really good when he is out there. So, like, you guys got to let that thing go. I know it's hard, but it's kind of out of our control, and it's probably out of his control to a certain degree as well. Like, nobody wants to be injured in this league. Nobody wants to miss games. I guarantee you he's more frustrated about it than any of you people are. So I do think Bradley Beal is, when he's optimized, this team is going to hit another level than what we've already seen. And I think you can stagger him with the bench to better put him in situations where he can reach that ceiling.
I would argue, especially for the people that intentionally or unintentionally don't understand Beal's impact to this team, I would argue that his shot profile is maybe the most important of any player on the roster. And I'm saying that because so much of his offense is predicated on paint first, paint second, and paint third. Yep. Whether that be off of isolation, pick and roll, whether that be off of some of his mid-post touches, he's trying to get to the paint and get a piece of it before anything else. If you take him out of the equation, who else on this team is operating with that particular mindset? The closest thing you get to that is Kevin Durant mid-post touches, but those don't hit the same as Bradley Beal's drives in terms of how they get the defense scrambling. And now you think about it as having the Kevin Durant post-ups that often see two to the ball pretty much every time. In addition to Bradley Beal and his paint touches off of drives or cuts, now you're starting to see the layers of the Suns' offense in which they're able to generate the highest of quality three-point opportunities, which is what they want. But they're doing it and they're going about pulling those strings and getting those results in very different fashions, all of which resulting in wide-open catch-and-shoot three-point opportunities. That's how you optimize Grayson Allen, Royce O'Neal, Ryan Dunn, any other role player on this team, even the big three outside of the one that might have the ball in their hands. That's what you need. Yeah. That's what you want. That's what they have to be.
Okay. I'm going to put on a costume here on Halloween.
Too late.
Okay.
You already did that.
I know. I'm taking off the banana costume. And I'm putting on my bench Beal costume.
Okay.
I'm just going to play devil's advocate. I'm not saying this is truly what I believe.
Can't even see it.
But I'm gonna try to find a way on the other side to maybe convince you that it might
Devil's
work.
advocate.
And maybe it doesn't work. Okay.
Sure.
So a lot of people bring up Manu Ginobili. And I do think that's an interesting point because Manu Ginobili was not the 6th, 7th, 8th best player on the Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
No. But his impact when he came in off the bench and getting starter level minutes was greater than if he was getting starting level minutes, just because of how his game fit on that team. If, and I mean if, Ryan Dunn continues to do this, he is the perfect fit in between Devin Booker and Kevin Durant at the 2 and the 4. Perfect fit right there at the 3 is Ryan Dunn. And if Bradley Beal can commit to coming off of the bench, play starter level minutes, like you're not down ticking his shots per game, you're not down ticking his usage percentage, you're not down ticking his minutes. You're simply rearranging them and shuffling them to have a greater impact. Is there a world where if everybody's bought in, let's put egos aside, that works? Because I do think that that's what a lot of people are bringing up. Because we're already seeing Beal in primarily bench-led lineups. We're seeing him be the guy then, and we're seeing him melt back. And here's the thing. When it comes down to the end of the fourth quarter, your option is still Bradley Beal. Him coming off the bench to start the game does not change that. Is there a reality? I'm not saying it will happen, but where if that were to happen, that works.
No. Because it's not happening.
Okay. No. But Gerald, that's not the question. Not the question is, do you think it's happening? The question is, let's say Mike Budenholzer comes out 40 games into the season and says that is what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Can that work? Can you win a championship with Bradley Beal on the bench and Ryan Dunn starting?
No, it doesn't move me in any way. And most importantly, again, I cannot emphasize this enough. It's not happening, guys. It's not happening. People keep bringing up Manu Ginobili. Manu Ginobili played until 2018. You want to know the last time that he played starters minutes coming off the bench? It was 2011. That's 15 years ago, where a third best player on a team was coming off the bench and having an impact for a winning team. The NBA doesn't work like that anymore. You need your best players to play the most minutes. Bradley Beal is their third best player. He needs to be playing as many minutes as possible with their best players. Come playoff time, you don't need to be, pigeonholing Bradley Beal into this James Harden with the Oklahoma City Thunder type role. That's not his game. You put him out there because you maximize your spacing when he is on the court, because Ryan Dunn, as much as we love him and are high on what he can bring defensively, has played 5 NBA games and he's made shots, but he's going to miss shots. He's not going to be hitting threes at a 45% clip all season. It's just not going to happen. And as much as we want to envision this scenario where, okay, hypothetically, if we take ego out, we can't take ego out. He is a $50 million player that you wooed, that you convinced to come here and waive his no trade clause to come here. It's just not the reality of the situation. And to be honest, the only people that are actually talking about this is the fan base. If any of us in the media were to get up there and ask Coach Mike Budenholzer, what do you think about benching Bradley Beal? He would look at you like you're an idiot, because you don't bench a player who is as good as Bradley Beal, regardless of what he's making. The 6-man thing is not happening, and it's honestly asinine that we are talking about this in the first game of the season that he misses. As good as Ryan Dunn is, as much as I love him and want him to continue getting minutes and continue growing, that's not the answer. It's just asinine.
Before I say anything, I want to make sure I got that off. All of that being said, which I'm completely in alignment with, for anybody that's asked me those questions on Twitter or X, if you call it that, for whatever reason, he's not coming off the bench. There's no reason for him to come off the bench. And this team's identity is established with those big 3 players playing the bulk of the minutes in succession with one another in the same lineups, especially to start and to close games. Now, where you can get into these other dynamics and layers of the rotation is when you start getting into your subs. Sometimes Brad might be the first sub in place of Ryan Dunn. That might just be what works best. And then Ryan Dunn is subbed back in for by Bradley Beal with those wing lineups and the center on the floor with them. That's the way that the team works. That's the layering and the process that makes this team tough. But you can't be the best version of yourself if Bradley Beal is not on the floor starting and closing for this team. That's it. It's really not a conversation for me.
I agree.
I mean, of course, we're playing devil's advocate. I
agree.
appreciate that. This is good conversation for the people that have these questions for us.
All I'm saying is if this were 2K.
Oh, jeez.
I would probably.
It's a great start.
I would probably start Ryan Dunn because I think it'd be fun. Okay, no, but I think so. I understand like hey, there's no way they do this. And Gerald, I think you're right. And there is definite like realistic basketball analysis reasons as to why you do not bench Bradley Beal. In a vacuum, a starting lineup of somebody like Tyus Jones, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Jusuf Nurkic, and what we've seen Ryan Dunn to just be right now, if he is just this, he doesn't get any better, he doesn't get any worse, he's just this. That's an incredible starting lineup. That's a lineup that fits really well, and that is a lineup that you're going to see a lot of minutes of. A hyper-active scoring guard who can get to all three levels and still play good defense in a vacuum is like a perfect six-man. A perfect six-man. If you took the number, and like I said, things that you said can't happen, but if you do, take the ego away, take the number that he's getting paid, take his career, you just say who Bradley Beal is as a player. He is NBA player number 57 right now, and what he does. That is an ideal fit for a six-man. It is.
Why though? It's an idea, and I see.
But
people,
that doesn't mean that it's not an ideal fit for a starter,
right? So why are we demoting him to sixth in the rotation instead of third where he belongs? Like why? And I see people in the chat saying, "Oh, well, he can close games." It helps if you're closing games with your best players who you should be starting the game with. Like, why are we depriving them of building that chemistry so that they can start games the same way that they are closing games? Like, there's going to be nights where you roll with Ryan Dunn or Royce O'Neal to close games. We've already seen it this season. It's going to be matchup based, but you need to get as much time on the court with your three best players as you possibly can in order to build those reps. That's why all last season, Beal's absence was really such a pain for us because we were like, they need to get to 50 games, 60 games so that they build that familiarity, that trust, that know-how together in terms of winning games together. I just don't understand why you would want to stagger it by bringing him off the bench in that way. And like the Manu Ginobili thing, guys, I loved Manu, and he was obviously their third best player, most impactful guy for the Spurs during that time when they were good. He never topped 20 points per game in his career. The caliber of scorer that we are talking about here is very different. And that's not to diminish Manu as a Hall of Famer or as a champ or an all-time great or anything like that. But what Bradley Beal brings to the table skill-wise is on a different plane as a scorer, shooter, floor spacer, like a lot of different things. So we need to be mindful of that too.
Okay. And the last thing I'll add
go
real
ahead.
quick
Because
to
we got to get to super chats.
Yep. Yeah, the last thing, and this is real quick. You can't just copy and paste one player's situation to another player's situation across multiple eras of NBA basketball.
Right.
The last 10 to 15 years of NBA basketball, the first three are different from the next two, from the next two to the next four to these last five. Like, it's not the same. You can't just copy and paste. That that Spurs context in 2011 and the years that preceded that, it's not the same as this Suns context in any capacity.
Right.
This is just not. It's not that, and I hate to break it to y'all, but this is like a fruitless conversation in multiple
okay,
ways.
Let's wrap up the fruitless conversation. Let's get to some wonderful super chats.
Fruitless.
Yeah. Thank you. Get some wonderful super chats. Let's start it out with Billy Barton. Thank you for the $1.99 super chat. Says this team has no quit in them. Book being book. Absolutely. A $2 super chat from Crusader. Thank you. Says if we can win like this now, imagine after All-Star. There's definitely a lot to build on. Trevor, thank you, Trevor. $1.99 says Katie couldn't hit one more basket to win me my parlay. Trevor, you and me both, buddy. Me and you both. Katie was tweeting at us, man. All right, Edgar. Thank you, Edgar. Another $2 super chat. Row your boats. Royce was clutch. Go Suns.
I like that.
Hector, another $2. These $2 ones are rolling in. They call me done it all.
From Kilo.
I didn't read the last part first, so I was just reading it normally.
Love that.
My favorite super chatter name, Steve Keim School of Drinking, $2 super chat says pray for Book's ankles.
Yes.
Yes, we'll see if anything comes of that. Haven't been looking on the Twitter streets. I don't know if anything has been
heard
tweeted
anything
out
yet.
If you can maybe do a little research on that for me, Gerald. As I read, Alec breaking the $2 trend with $5. Thank you, Alex. Is curious if folks have thoughts about why Monte Morris is getting limited minutes. Steven?
Well, it's the floor of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's demanded for the backup point guard to be in a little bit more. Some matchups, it might not necessarily be that. You put him in this matchup with this Clippers team, especially matched with the James Harden minutes. They're looking for Waldos. They're trying to figure out who's the most favorable matchup, involve them in primary action, and give James Harden as abundant opportunities to score against those players as you can. You obviously already have one out there with Tyus Jones. He has to be out there on the floor. It's a little less dependent on Monte in this particular matchup, and I feel like that's why we were seeing that tonight.
So Rudy has the same concerns. I don't know what currency, but Rudy's sending us 400 of it. Thank you, Rudy. He says, complete opposite of last that was a great game. Complete opposite of last year. I have a question, though. What's up with Monte? He's not playing. Is Bud... and then I'm going to let you answer that, Gerald, and I'll get to his second part.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think it's... I mean, he only played 3 minutes tonight. There were minus 11 in those minutes. That one stint that he got didn't go well. And I think they do want to have some point book configurations. Yep. They want to have lineups where Tyus Jones is out there. And yeah, I do think they are trying to get Grayson going to, look ahead to the next part of the question there.
Yeah, so continuing from Rudy says, is Bud trying to get Grayson going because Grayson looks terrible out there? Any concern over Grayson Allen so far, Steven?
No concern. We obviously know he didn't play much at all during the training camp and preseason portion of the schedule. You get to the first handful of games, he's missed a couple because of obviously the newborn baby, which congratulations to him and his family. He's still in preseason mode, like we talked about with Jusuf Nurkic in multiple ways. He's got to get himself back going. It's going to take him maybe a week or so once he starts getting into a game flow. Hopefully that comes without any type of injuries that set him back again. But until he gets to, I would say, like 3 or 4 games in on consistent gameplay, we won't really see him being the old Grayson quite yet.
Same feeling, I'm assuming, with you, Gerald. I know we talked about it before the show.
Yeah, he's played 3 games. He's been dealing with that sore Achilles. It's clear he's still trying to work his way into that. He's also playing at a very different weight than he was last year. That takes some adjusting. I think he'll be fine. It's been a very small sample size. And he is also, even if we take out the muscle watch and all that other stuff, the Achilles, the fact that he just had a kid and is probably not getting much sleep this first week, take all that out, he still has to adjust again to being a 6th man as opposed to a starter, which he's been for the majority of the last 4 years.
Alyssa with $4.99 super chat. Alyssa, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for coming to all of our watch parties as well. Says, what a way to come back and win. Book has a scoring record and no headband tonight. Plus, his Halloween book ones, 4 fire emojis, hashtag 40-piece. Marcus with the $2 super chat says, if the Bucks keep losing, does Brook Lopez work? Money-wise.
No, I think he makes too much money.
All right, I'll have you do some more research, Gerald. Red Tribe 7 evens, but thank you again. Omar Shorts with a $10 super chat says, why does it feel like when Book makes an easy 3 or midi, the next offensive possession, he's trying to shoot difficult contested 3 when the game is close? Just keep it simple. Do you notice that trend, Steven?
I do. I don't feel like he's forcing it, though. I think it's more so the flow of the game. When you're a prolific scorer like Devin Booker and you're in any inkling of a rhythm, he has the green light, obviously. Mm-hmm. If he feels space, he's playing off of that, and he's just playing off of instinct. He feels space, he's in rhythm, he wants to get those shots up, and I feel like that's a good thing for the Suns.
Did your research bear any fruit?
Yeah, Brook Lopez makes about $23 million, which is more than everyone except for the big 3, so no, you're not trading for Brook Lopez. And I think the Bucks are also a second tax apron team, so they also could not take more money back than they're sending out, which makes that kind of a non-starter in terms of them being a trade partner.
Grant with a $4.99 super chat. Thank you, Grant. We covered this topic, but I'm reading it anyway. If Manu can be the 6th man and contribute to winning ball the way that he did, Brad can play that same way if Ryan continues developing like he is. I think that you sent that super chat when we were talking about it. Mm-hmm. If you are joining us afterwards, why don't you just go back about 10 minutes? We covered all of that. CBK says, people too hung up on starting 5 IMO rotations, and when they happen are what matter more. So far, Bud is killing it.
Nailed it, CBK.
Oh.
And then Adam P sent us $1.99. It was just a super chat that said a red hand pointing up. I'm assuming he's pointing at the direction that Ryan Dunn's career trajectory is going.
Leave a like in the chat. That's how many threes Ryan Dunn is going to make this season. So far, we're at 303. So we need a lot more than that.
I'd fire myself up. Put Ryan Dunn in the 3-point contest.
That'd be nuts.
Gentlemen, we've been going for quite some time here. We are still over 700 strong. We are going to wrap up, though. Any final thoughts on this game tonight, Gerald?
Great team win. And now we have a game against a winnable Blazers opponent on Saturday. So take care of business and move to, what's that going to be, 5-1? Yeah.
That'd be nice. Steven?
Seeing this team continue to operate against teams that are throwing switches at them, switches with pressure, I think that's going to be something that they have to solve come playoff time. Teams will be of a similar level to this Clippers team, but have potentially more depth in terms of personnel to defend to that scheme. Them figuring it out, but sticking to Budenholzer's principles and not reverting to bad habits of the past. We saw a template for that tonight. Now I'm gonna be looking forward to seeing them do that against multiple other teams going forward.
I'm going to end it with a couple things. One, a $4.99 super chat from Mastradamus says, Dunn starting offsets Nurk's limitations, especially since a trade is unlikely. Dunn guards top wing players, so Book won't have to. Would help with rebounding too. Yeah, Ryan Dunn's a good player. If he started next to other good players, he would help them in different ways. But Bradley Beal, if you want to point out all the positives and the ways that he could help, like you two so wonderfully did earlier, he brings positive too. Nothing against Ryan Dunn when we say Bradley Beal should be starting. Y'all know how much I love Ryan Dunn. It's just more of like, okay, you got to choose one. You're choosing Bradley Beal right now. Maybe next season, maybe going forward, it's a different conversation. But right now, it's Bradley Beal, and it's going to be Bradley Beal. My final thoughts from this game is I love what Mike Budenholzer is doing. This team obviously has an identity, and even though they're not playing perfectly, even though they fall down in some games, they've shown fight, they've shown heart, and they've shown that they play together. Through thick and through thin, that's what's going to get you through this NBA season. It's going to get you through the postseason, because no championship team is perfect. Everybody has their faults. But if you can have everybody make up for each other, play hard for each other, that goes a really long way. And this team is doing that. I want to remind everybody that we will be back here tomorrow at 3 p.m. for a regular live show. Lindsay will be back, so make sure y'all hit a like for that. And until then, I want you to make sure you follow the Suns account on Twitter and on Instagram at PHNX_Suns. You can follow myself at Eric Ruby, ERIKRUBY. You can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourget. You can follow Steven at StevenPG3. And the chat has been asking, or specifically one person has been asking for this. So I'm going to do something to sign off, and please don't hate me.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Can I get the one shot? Is the one shot still alive, Kyle?
Damn it.
Peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly time. Ahoy, hoy.
We all silly like the mayor.